Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Author's Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every great conversation happens, and it happens because we trusted Brendan and Vamsi over at Master Talk to show us the power of effective communication. We also make sure we have a great cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, a Christ-centered, veteran-owned coffee company. Today on the show, we have a very special treat for you. We have Dr. Robert Garcia, the Warrior Strategist out of San Diego, California. How you doing, Rob?
Really good, CJ. Thanks so much for having me.
Guys, I'm super excited to have Dr. Rob here on the show because I will let you know that the Author's Porch is here because of Dr. Rob. I've known Dr. Rob for a couple years now, and I have been a student of his, if you will say. And I say a student because he used to work in higher education as well. And I think, was it middle school or high school as well?
It was high school, and I was a professor for a bit.
Yeah, so I say student because Rob the Warrior Strategist teaches you how to effectively design your paycheck as well as strategies for entrepreneurs to go out there and live your best life and understand the business world. And that's what he does best. And when I came to him, I was a complete mess. I was flapping in the wind. And you know what? And I'll say it. I'm not embarrassed to say it. And I quit his program a couple of times because I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know why I'm trying this out. But you know what? The Author's Porch is here because Dr. Rob didn't quit me. And he said, you know what? I believe in you. I believe in what your idea is and what you really want to do. You just need to hone it in. And he creates these wonderful things. So Rob, thanks for being here with me today. I'm honored for you to be here on the show. You've graced our presence in the magazine as well. So super stoked for tonight and to talk about the lovely things you do. And guys, he's an author as well. So, which is super, super important because that's what we do here on the Author's Porch. So what's been keeping you busy lately, Rob? Like, I haven't been talking to you for quite a while.
So I took a position as director of strategy for IQ Media here in San Diego. So my superpowers greatly increased. It was like they handed me Thor's hammer. I now control like some of the content for 20 newspapers, another magazine, a radio station, a podcast, all this different stuff. And I get to work with this really great family and this guy Brett Davis, who's just unbelievable. So that's been my focus lately. And then of course I'm running, Shift Advanced Life Design magazine, my own business magazine, and just staying busy. Life is good.
Yeah. Now, excuse me. One of the things that you taught me and that I try to tell other self-published authors and even traditionally published authors is that you have to treat it like a business because you have to go out there. So can you kind of tell us some of those strategies that you try to instill in your students when you're trying to treat something like a business? What is one of the mind frames that you need to kind of wrap your head around?
Yeah, so I'll make this from an author-centric point of view because I know that a lot of your fans are authors or soon-to-be authors. The main thing between a hobby and a business is that hobbyists check in periodically when it's convenient, and they don't have income goals. They don't have productivity goals. They kind of just treat it, when it's convenient, I'm going to kind of do this. Maybe it'll grow. When you're running it like a business, you're structured. You are, you know what your next step is, your next tasking. You don't just get up and kind of randomly let your day happen. You time block, you limit who can talk to you during the course of the day. And you have a definitive goal. So from an author's perspective, you need to figure out what stage of the game you're in. So if you're pre-author And I'm going to use this as self-publishing analogies because that's all I've ever known. I've never had a traditional contract.
Mhm.
If you're a pre-author, obviously you're going to start off with your content plan, and you're going to say, okay, what's my book going to be about? Like, who am I going to talk to? Like, you got to ask yourself and make a checklist of the basic questions. Like, who's going to buy this? Who does this appeal to? What problems is it going to solve? Then you get to the physical stuff. So that's just content. You get to the physical stuff. So what's the layout going to be like? What's your process going to be? You know, which service are you going to use for self-publishing? So this was my first real book I self-published called Teen Juggernaut, and A Young Person's Guide by Rob Garcia. Note, there was no doctor back then. This is quite a while ago.
I haven't seen that one.
It's very it wasn't really widely put out there. And what's interesting is I wrote this out of my own childhood trauma, because I had a parent that was a pretty severe drug addict and alcoholic, and I moved 16 times from 1st to 11th grade. A lot of family members were just on drugs or in jail. And I wanted to write a book for teenagers that showed them, hey, even if you don't come from a perfect family or you don't have a lot of money growing up, you can be somebody amazing. And so I found this guy at San Diego State that did manga drawings, anime. And so I was like, all right, we got to keep, this is for like 12 to 19-year-olds. So we got to keep their attention. So of course we want cartoons. We want things that explain points that are visually fun to look at. And I wanted this thing to be like more than just a book. I wanted to be like a workbook, a guide, like a source of inspiration. And so I got really lucky. And I got on the news for this, CJ. I got on the freaking morning news in San Diego.
Wow.
I lucked out. I was kind of dating one of the producers at the time, but
that works.
Wait, whatever you got to do, right? So she got me a news segment on like San Diego living. So I showed up in my suit and I'm all looking like a grown up and talking about my book. But the point is, I had a plan for growth, and it started off, by making this book fun, because obviously kids have shorter attention spans than adults do. So you got to have a lot of fun when you're going through a book. You got to have like interactive stuff and checklists and bullet points and, cool design features, changed up fonts, all kinds of stuff. And then at the end of it, like I had like a summation of your best life lessons. So like find a mentor and dream big and give back and, eyes on the prize, all this stuff. So anyway, this book, I put it on edutopia.com with an offer to give it to any teacher for free. It got downloaded in 11 countries. Wow. And I still once in a while get a royalty check from it, which is great. So I might even do like a reissue or another version for entrepreneurs or something. But Teen Juggernaut was my very first foray into self-publishing. And so
that's super cool. That needs to be on every high school teacher's desk and in the classroom.
I really think I need to make another push for it. The feedback I got was unbelievable. People loved it. I just, I have so much going on sometimes. Like I have these projects I put aside and, we forget. And so I wrote 8 books and I wrote about everything. I went through a spree. Once I learned how to self-publish, I was like, okay, I'm going to write about weight management. I'm going to write about charter schools. I'm going to write about like success. I'm going to write about learning. And so I started this project because in my childhood, I had severe ADD. I failed out of high school. I failed out of 2 colleges because I couldn't focus in a classroom. I can't do it. We didn't have fancy drugs back then. We didn't have like, diagnosis of any of this stuff. And so I just kept failing out of a lot of my classes that I just couldn't pay attention into. And so as I got older in my 30s, I was like, all right, what are the things that help me to learn faster? Like, when can I really fixate on something? I'm probably on the spectrum a little bit. Like, what really like gets my attention so that learning can take place? And I remember I was in my cubicle and I was like, I'm going to come up with a bunch of learning techniques and just write another book about it. And so the next level was born. I wrote 3 versions of this book and I kept changing the cover. I kept like augmenting. I kept like adding content. And so this was the last book I wrote 5 years ago, The Next Level Supercharged. Sales were pretty good at it. I got good reviews, but I wanted a book that was crazy. So this one, 16 learning techniques that will help you with any job or skill. And what makes this one different is that this would have helped me as a young person, because I would have understood that I've been called stupid my whole life. And really the problem wasn't that I was stupid, is that I was a creative. I was like a hyper creative.
Yep.
And I just, I couldn't get into something if I couldn't like visualize it in a realistic fashion.
Yeah.
So I made this, and the book is broken down like this. So this is the GMOS. These are the Garcia model of skills comprehension. So when we first find out about a job or a skill, we have awareness. We know a little bit about it, vague knowledge at a basic level. And so what the GMOS does is it helps to tell, okay, how good are you at something? Then you got familiar, you got a little bit more. Proficient is where you can start instructing people. You're at the bachelor's level. Master is when you're skilled at the breakdown of every level of the topic and you can perform tasks far above peers. Expert is the highest level of SME, and you're able to produce policy and field. When you can influence your industry, you're at the expert level. And that's why this book is the next level, because you're climbing up your levels of comprehension.
Wow.
So I popped this on here, and in my back of my brain, I'm thinking this probably should have made you famous.
I mean, you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And
Yeah.
and that's in every psychology book in the world. And now you have your own I mean, it should. It's genius. Like, it needs to be out there.
I appreciate that, and thank you. It kind of blows my mind, and once again, Rob just needs to circle back and focus and get this out there and let people know about it. So I went through, and I'm not going to outline all the techniques, but just one or two. So, I did these 16 techniques, and each chapter has a different one. And it's got a description, it's got advantages, disadvantages, most likely practitioners, an overview, and then best practices. And so as I go through this, there's 16 techniques. And then at the end of it, I interviewed 5 people that had used next level, learning techniques to do amazing things. I interviewed Frankie Hill, who was like the most legendary street skateboarder of the 90s. I interviewed an Army Ranger who'd lost his leg and overseas, and who ended up like getting a prosthetic and getting reinstated to active duty. And I interviewed Team Hoyt, who actually are really famous. They, the son has cerebral palsy, and the dad would push him around the wheelchair, and they started doing marathons together.
Oh, I think
And
I saw them.
yeah, they're out of
Yeah.
Boston. The father
Yeah.
passed away a while back,
Oh,
but
bless.
he gave me a great interview. And it was just cool interviewing all these people and getting to tell their stories. So this book has a little of everything. It's got the GMOS, it's got the 16 techniques, it's got 5 really good interviews with interesting people. And then at the very end of it, I put in worksheets so you could actually fill in what job or skill you're trying to do. And then you can use the examples here to get better, to pick like 2 or 3 techniques. Because what's interesting, CJ, is that you can pair up 2 or 3 techniques out of this book to supercharge your learning experience.
So let me ask you, is this because I suffer from ADD as well, and that's why I have about 12 different folders at any one given time that I'm working on different books of ideas that I have. So I'm like going over here and I'm reading like 20 books at one time because I can't focus on one thing at a time. And probably why it took me 2 years to figure out what I actually wanted to do, which was the author's portrait versus all the other crazy ideas that I had. So is this book focused on people who have those rabbit brains, or is it focused on anybody?
It's focused on anybody, to be honest
Okay.
with you, but people that have trouble with focus for sure can take this and be like, oh, I want to learn this skill. I'm going to
Mhm.
do research, emulation, and creation.
Okay.
And I'm going to, do this skill.
Mhm.
So I'm going to research somebody by going to the library or getting a book off Amazon. I'm going to emulate somebody that's already done this at a very, very high level and kind of reverse engineer some of their secrets. And then I'm going to create something in that field that's original. And so you can take you can cherry pick like 2 or 3 techniques, add them together, and have this amazing learning experience. Because my doctorate was on project-based learning, which is an alternative form of learning for kids that can't do traditional academia, because most of them are kinesthetic tactile. And so if a kid has severe problems in the classroom that aren't behavioral, they usually just can't focus on stuff, and so they get bored because they want to create with their hands. And so that's one of the biggest reasons that some kids have so much trouble in school, is that unless they can do project-based learning and create something with their hands and visualize a real-life application to something, you're not going to want to learn algebra unless you know that you can build something with it. That's it.
Look, so funny story. I did my whole degree online. I took um, math, college math twice online and failed it. And then I had to sit down and take it in the classroom. And the instructor was my neighbor, who was also the LRS commander's wife. And she tutored me, and I still got a C. Like, math is not my thing. So I totally get it. Like I'm one of those people who could not sit down in a classroom and learn. I had to learn online at my own pace and do it my own specific way because I just learn differently than everybody else. But if you let me get in there and touch it and do it like that, I can learn it. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the formal term for that is dyscalculia. There's an actual term for people that have a phobia of math that are unable to do it at a strong level. And it comes down to confidence as well. So if you have somebody who automatically walks in the classroom and says, I'm bad at math, they're subconsciously programming themselves to fail. And that's one thing I've learned. And so if you said to me, hey, Rob, I need you to finish an algebra class before the year is out, what would you do? I would turn to the next level and I would get into, okay, math is very specific. It's like a language. So the first thing I'm going to pick is repetition. I'm going to learn this just like learning French. I'm going to practice this over and over and over again. So it's like learning a language or learning an instrument. Repetition to build muscle memory is huge. That'd be the first technique I would put in, is repetition. The second thing I would do is research. I would absolutely go to Khan Academy on YouTube, watch every video, related to the algebra stuff. So that's research, repetition. And then the third thing I would do is diagramming. So one thing you can get that I bought a lot of back in the day is these big laminates at FedEx that have they're incredible. They have every algebraic formula on them. And they're just like these giant laminate guides. And so I would pick those up as well. And then diagramming is when you create diagrams of stuff to make it easier. So I found was in my PhD program, if I diagrammed out my class or the PhD path and just drew goofy stuff on the outer fringes of it, it just helped me to focus. Diagrams, shapes, and colors are amazing for me for learning and for just drawing something stupid that makes me laugh. And it just works. It keeps me focused.
Yeah, I'm a doodler. So, uh, now you also talk about, and I think you said you wrote a book about speed learning?
That's the one. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the next level success. And you said GMO
SC, Garcia
GM
Model of Skills Comprehension.
skills
GMOS.
comprehension.
Yeah.
You know, in our schools, they still teach a very blanket way to kids. If say you had a classroom, do you think that it's I know we live in a world where you're supposed to teach to the masses and then the outliers just kind of go into special classrooms. Do you think that
I'm laughing because that was my experience exactly.
yeah, do you think that we should be figuring out how each of these kids learn and separating each of the kids based on the way they learn into the learning classrooms that they fit into? Tactile learners go to a tactile classroom. Can the other learners, you know what I mean? Like instead of going, okay, this is fifth grade math and we teach it a certain way, you test each kid based on the way they learn, and then you have classroom that teaches this way, a classroom that teaches that way. I mean, what would be your solution to fixing
So first of
the
all, I'll tell you right now that's a bold approach, and it would catch a lot of flack from parents and school boards because, I'm not going to get into the whole education system thing, but it's very nebulous, and there's more finger pointing than I've ever seen, even more than the military. While it's a good idea, I think the better solution would be to maybe you're talking about separating the kids, right? And then grouping them according to lifestyle.
based on their learning style. Yeah. So like I have to be able to do it. I'm a hands-on learner. Like I taught myself how to animate my own character and character animation on Adobe Pro just by watching videos and then doing it. Nobody else taught me. I would watch a video, I'd go do it. I'd watch a video, I'd go do it. And by practicing it, I was able to learn it. But if I sat in a classroom, I would never freaking learn it. Like I'm one of those people. And I don't know all the fancy words because that stuff is over my head. I know you're. So, I mean, like that type of learner and all the people that learned the way I learned would be in that type of classroom. And then everyone that learned that was, say, I need to be able to be in a very quiet, focused classroom. I can't have any noise around me. So different type of learning styles.
I think you let the kids pick, and instead of separating them by learning style, you let them learn. You give them three choices. So it's either visual. The three types are auditory, visual, or tactile.
Uh-huh.
And what you're talking about by doing it with your hands, that is learning by doing. That is project-based learning.
Okay.
There's a school in San Diego called High Tech High, which is they have an unbelievable college acceptance rate. It's like 95% or 99 or so, just something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And all they do is teach like engineering level stuff, but they're always building projects. But they do it in a way where you give a kid like 14 days. You're like, okay, draft up your materials. What do you need? How are you going to do this? What math is involved? And then they create something incorporating lessons. So they get a lesson that they can digest, and then they use it to build something. They get an adult advisor, and the kids are just some of the most smart pre-engineering kids you've ever seen. But yeah, there are a lot of ways that we can make the learning experience better that don't cost that much. Like we don't. The thing with education, I actually say this, I try not to generalize, but the thing with education is it rewards analyticals. It always has. Education is always a springboard to college. But guess what? Not every kid is going to go to college. And I'm not saying that we have to change things radically, but we do have to have gateways so that kids can either go entrepreneurial, college, military, or probably like blue collar or hospitality.
Yeah.
A lot of kids would be really happy to go work in hotel management or culinary or all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we did have many academies at the school that I taught at, which is kind of cool. So they could work in the restaurant or they could take the engineering path that I was actually running. So that I felt like that was a great path for people. But CJ, the world, and this is what's interesting, I'm gonna get real deep here. The world rewards analyticals. It always has.
Yep.
And Tim Ferriss, who's one of the smartest people on earth, got fired from every job he was ever at because he was obsessed with designing systems for faster implementation. And he would call his boss and say, why are we doing this like idiots? Here's how I mapped out on a napkin how to make your, how to get how to get our systems better. Anyway, he got fired. And the point is, once he self-published and got the 4-hour work week out there and became a New York Times bestselling author, he now gets paid $10,000 an hour by companies that wouldn't touch him when he was in his 20s. And that says a lot. And what it means is we encourage our kids to take SATs. Why? So they can go to college. We encourage our kids to take all these math classes that they're never going to use. Let's be honest. You don't need to go any higher than algebra. You really don't, unless you're going to be like a scientist, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever. You'll be just fine with business math. That's what I had to do. I failed pre-algebra every time I took it, every single time. I got business math, and then because I could imagine it in my head, I got A's.
Yeah.
Creatives need more ways to express themselves for sure. And unfortunately, what we teach is just the college pathway. We put way too much emphasis on it. And there are a whole lot of plumbers out there that are making 6 figures plus just because they have blue collar jobs, people that join the union, people that become carpenters, whatever. And so I think we're getting better at dissolving that stigma, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that if we allowed them the space and the environment to grow where they need to grow, they would be exactly where you help them be, a lot of them be, create their own paycheck, which is a wonderful thing. But they got to put the work in, obviously, and I've learned that for sure.
Yeah.
So, do you think that growing up the way that you did, you talked a little bit in the beginning about you had a hard upbringing. You had a parent that was on drugs and alcohol, and you were raising yourself. Do you think that catapulted you to where you are now? Do you think that made you work hard to put your stake in this world?
Yeah, it made me tough. It really did. I realized that nobody was going to help me but me, and it's not a great way to grow up as a little kid. And it's the reason why, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but, I went to the beach at 5 a.m. I woke up at 1 a.m., went to the beach at 5 a.m., ran 8 miles in the dark. And that toughness is probably just child abandonment still in the back of my head. And it's just a way of me dealing with my trauma. A lot of us grow up with some really bad unresolved stuff, and hopefully we can find positive ways to, channel it into something. That's why I love writing so much, and I love teaching and helping people.
Yeah.
But I became a very unique individual because of my upbringing, for sure.
Yeah. And so, but you're an entrepreneur, so you work for yourself, but you're also do work in strategy for IQ Media, which is, I mean, blowing my mind. I can't even say the numbers. It's like 25 newspapers, all these media outlets and everything, and helping them strategize the things they need to increase visibility and all the other places that they're going to be. So, when is it? When have you made it?
Okay.
When is it Dr. Robert Garcia's "I've made it. I don't need to get up at 1 or 5"?
I'll always get up at 1 or 5. Um, it's just something I periodically do just when I feel like I'm getting soft. Because if you can force yourself to do something that crazy, nothing else is hard in life at all. You are so motivated and so fired up, and you're like, you know what? I'm better than 90% of people out there because I'm more motivated. I'm going to get stuff done, and people will rely on me because I can mentally force myself to drive out there in a short sleeve shirt like an idiot and hope for rain, and then jump in the ocean afterwards, which I usually do. Yesterday it would have been extreme. I would have probably got sick. But when will I have made it? The first time the first major time when an entrepreneur has made it is financial freedom. So when they have enough revenue coming in regularly every month to where all their bills are paid, and then they have, some extra, that's a giant hurdle that most business owners will never make. The second time is when the money is getting ridiculous. When you hit 150, 200,000, 300,000, when you get to that point where you've hit the tipping point, like Malcolm Gladwell says, where you have so much fame, you almost can't go backwards. Like, Bill Burr, the comedian, is never going to have to go backwards. Malcolm Gladwell is never going to have to go backwards. Like, they're at a point where they have so much audience draw and so much attention and spotlight. They've made it, and there is no real like hard delineating factor. But when you get there, you just hit a point where you're established in your industry and you're known.
Do you think you'll still get up at 5 in the morning and go beach run?
I'll be a millionaire and I'll still be out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have no doubt I'm going to make it, CJ. I'm way too crazy. I am so
I have no doubt that you're way too crazy because oh my goodness. So we have a couple people here watching. We've got Joanne Angelberry Cologne. She's been here with us the whole time. She says exciting to see both of us. We also have Jamie Lane here watching. She talks about her son and him having his own language and the different teaching styles as well. I just want to recognize that we've got a couple folks here watching. We've had a couple people jump on and on off as well. People within the network that you work with on a weekly basis, sometimes monthly and stuff like that. So my question is, what's your next book? What's the next zone of genius that you're going to be dropping on us? Because one, we've got to get those 2 books revved back up and revved back out there and let people understand what you've already created to more visibility to show them, because you're moving on to a lot of other things that you're working on, while some of us other folks can get some visibility on those books. But what is your next project?
I really should have. Here's the deal. I can write a book pretty fast, but I'd rather. One of them I wrote, 56-page book, 6 hours, from literally a piece of paper to publishing. And I have a formula to it.
Can you write that? Could you write a book on that formula for the rest of us that literally our only thing is writing books? Because I have a lot of authors that want that formula.
I could write a book in a weekend for sure. A good
Golly.
one. I'm talking like 200 pager, 300 pager. Um, and I would actually, you and I should bundle that up in a workshop, and I will hand that to you as a DYP project because you remember, and I love you to death. I actually wrote an ebook on how to do it, on how to write your book really, really fast. So the next project, my next 3 books in order, I'm going to write a book on entrepreneurship. I'm going to write a book about probably a really extensive bio about my life because I've had like 4 or 5 chapters in my life. You know, from birth to 19, I was in Eureka, California. Awful life. Great friends. I was skateboarding a lot, but I was dealing with a lot of traumas that I didn't realize were traumas until I was like 30. I was like, oh crap, you know, you're not supposed to live in a hoarder's house, floor to ceiling garbage with your cat eating mice live, and then go to school moldy clothes. And then, you know, my 30s, I'm like, normal kids aren't like that. So the second chapter, Arizona for 2 years, going to DeVry, just trying to learn electronics. And the third chapter is the Air Force, active duty. Fourth chapter is San Diego. San Diego actually has 2 parts, because there's Rob in San Diego just trying to get stable. And then there's Rob the entrepreneur, who all of a sudden everything takes off. Like in 2000, I think 2018 was the pivotal year.
Mm.
Middle East deployment. My mom died. I had a nervous breakdown. I moved into my dream apartment. 4 massive events in 1 year that kickstarted who I am. That was entrepreneurship on hyperdrive. So yeah, I do want to write a couple books. Jillian's really pushing me to get one out there, and so I will make a book project board and get these out there because now I know how to market them better. Now I've got an audience. I've got a magazine. I can, you know, I know how to do Facebook Lives and email lists, all this different stuff. Yeah. So I feel like sales are going to be a lot better. But I am going to write a powerful book and I've thought about writing one about tactical CEQ, which is my visibility program, the art of business celebrity. I have 206 interviews now, 206 interviews under my belt. And TAC CEQ changed my life, just applying 4 principles to go from expert to highly visible industry celebrity.
We just need to install a faucet on the top of your head, and then with facing backwards because we need you facing forward, and we just need to turn it on and put a cup underneath it, and then, you know, grab a little bit of that out so we can pour it out somewhere like a jigsaw puzzle, put it all together, and then so that you can keep going forward because you have so much knowledge. You know, I've sat in a lot of calls with you and I've listened to the stories, you know, and they're not stories like false stories. They're your life. So when I say stories, I don't mean to degrade them in any way or downplay them. I mean, I could not have survived eating moldy bread trying to pay for my PhD. I stopped at my bachelor's and I says, "Oh, I'm done." Like, I'm done. I quit. Like, I'm over it. You know, I mean, that was enough for me. You know, the things that you've been through, the things that you've survived through, and that you kept pushing. And not only did you keep pushing, but you're bringing all of us along with you. So it's just amazing to me, and it's very humbling to be able to be on this journey with you as well. So for you to be able to put that down on paper, you have all of this knowledge and these things. And I've taken your tactical CEQ course. I'm in your design your paycheck program as well and all your other stuff. And a lot of the folks that I, you know, work with and collaborate with, we're all there with you and we're watching it and stuff like that. So that's why I say, you know, let's put that faucet on the top of your head, face it backwards so you can keep going that way. And the rest of us can just, you know, turn it on and just grab our cup, put it all like a jigsaw puzzle, put it together, and you can just keep going and let us grab the stuff as you go and stuff like that. So where can people reach you if they want to reach out for the tactical CEQ celebrity stuff, as well as if they want to learn how to design their own paycheck? Because authors, you've got to treat it like a business if you want to sell some books. Like, trust me, you're not going to sit in your living room and have the world buying your books if you're not doing something other than doing something.
Yeah. So everything is on my main website at yournextlevelofsuccess.com. There's a link for Tax EQ. There's a link for Design Your Paycheck. There is a link if you want to book a call with me for 15 minutes for free and just, get to know me. Honestly, I feel like Design Your Paycheck or Tax EQ could help authors, because Design Your Paycheck is going to show you how to monetize and different ways to, get your book out there. And then Tax EQ is going to show you how to make a social media plan for it, how to get celebrities, making videos about it, how to grow an audience for it. Design Your Paycheck will teach you like audience building and pre-launch. So it just depends. There's a lot out there for authors, but you're absolutely right. Like, they have to be ready to do the work, especially self-published. They have to create their own buzz, and there are ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rob, I know you're super busy. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I see you jumping around in your chair. I'm like, oh, he's ready to go. He's already off on another moment. So this is the part. I already put your link here in the comments, so anyone that watches the video can see your link to your website. But this is the part in the show where I hand it over to you. I pop myself off, so you have the last word. So this is your point, your moment to share anything that we didn't talk about in this show that you want to share with the audience or anybody that's watching. So I hand it over to you.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into my interview. I really appreciate it. And I guess the best advice I would give you is, when you do undertake writing a book, treat it with love. Treat it with honesty, treat it with energy and fire and passion. The things I wrote about were the struggles that I'd gone through in my life, and it was very cathartic to write a book about them. But yeah, put in that effort, put in that work, and you'll have a masterpiece when it's done. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Rob. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I always enjoy having a conversation. I can't wait till I get back into the full swing of everything after the new year and get back into the weekly calls and everything. And everybody, don't forget to come back each week and watch us either live or on the podcast here on Facebook. You can ask Siri or Alexa to play the latest episode. Head to our website, catch the latest issue of the magazine, which is dropping on the 1st of January. We have a new issue dropping, and our blog posts, we're going to get those back up and going at the beginning of January as well. If you want to continue making authors' dreams come true and provide them a platform, make sure that you continue watching us. And authors, come on our show. We enjoy talking to you. We will see you guys next time. If you appreciate conversations like we do and want to become a better speaker, visit our friends Brendan and Vamsi of Master Talk, where they teach you how to use the power of your voice. And don't forget that if you want to stay awake with a nice cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, the best cup of coffee on this side of heaven. Until next time, my friends, I'm CJ. This is Rob. Go read his books and write on. See you later, Rob. Bye.
The Author's Porch is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support. Tune in, share, and subscribe.